Well, first of all, let me start by thanking everybody for showing up into this CloudFrame webinar called Live Transformation, Turning COBOL into Maintainable Java. Okay, so let me start by talking a little bit about CloudFrame, the problem we solve. What is that we've seen in the market? Why is that we think that we really can help our customers to add value to their problems that they're facing? You know, during the pandemic and even after, we noticed, and there was some news telling about all the problems that big customers, big companies they had with their old programs, and these programs that they were not ready to receive this massive demand that they were getting during pandemic, as people were trying to do more remote transactions. That is just the tip of the iceberg of all the problems that are buried into old programming. COBOL holds most of the old programming in the world. Maybe 90% of the old programming is done in COBOL, and it's getting a problem bigger every day. There's a lot of intellectual property, business logic buried into those programs. There's a lot of people that they're aging. There's a lot of structured languages. They are actually going off of the market because they are not maintainable. They are not easy to maintain. They are not easy to control. The way developers did things in the past and in the present still is not very easy to control when you have COBOL. So we've noticed that COBOL is becoming a problem. We also noticed that most of the providers of solutions to convert COBOL, they're very old solutions. They work in old style. They're not really bringing anything innovative into the market. So CloudFrame is really having a proposal that is way aggressive, that is way thought in the way to make this everything automated for the customers to really get off of this big problem that they're facing. Now, what we're offering to the market is what we call the incremental approach. It's a self-funding approach that the customers can take by steps. The self-funding starts by allowing the customers to run Java within the mainframe. So yes, we can convert COBOL and execute in the mainframe, and then that execution of Java in the mainframe is going to reduce your costs. It's going to allow you to start reducing the MSUs and MLCs consumptions, and it's going to allow you to go and negotiate reduction on your invoicings. That is going to allow you then to start creating a team and start creating a group that is going to define and get you ready with the target state. So you need to, in the long run, have defined a very well-architected framework for your cloud. You need to have defined also the strategy that you're going to follow with your data, even the way that you want to manage your operations by using schedulers, different types of triggers, new types of data control, to ways to control the access to data, like Kafka, reducing the dependency. When you had everything, your data just locked into one single box, and now you can open that to the world. You had to, take care of different ways to access the data. So you have to plan your strategies in parallel as you're already getting the savings using one of the solutions that we have, which is called Relocate. And then when you want to really go off of the mainframe, you can use the second solution, which is Renovate. It is optional, of course. You can go straight to Renovate. You can stay on Relocate. It is completely optional, the strategy that the customer wants to follow. But the good thing is that we really are offering this incremental approach. Now, differentiators is a question that I always get in this market, and pretty much in every market, in every IT solution that you get in the market. You have to really make sure that you explain very clearly your differentiators. Incrementality is one of the differentiators, but another one which is key, and I already mentioned, we're a new company. We're really using modern technologies. We're really taking the effort for the customers, to really do the entire conversion. I've heard many times in this, when I'm making my presentations, what is the percentage of effort that I have to do after I do the conversion? And I'm like, hold on, this market is really, I don't know, it's really weird. It's really damaged already, Because if customers, they believe that they need to make adjustments on a converted code, this is not okay. We're giving a solution that is converting 100% of the functionality, not just the code, the functionality. And that's a huge differentiator. So we are working on making our product better, to be maintainable, easy to maintain, to be also ready to execute the same way. So the functionality is the important thing. Converting code, anybody can do it, but using intelligent solution that will really reduce the effort to the end customers, that is fully automated, that's exactly the goal. And the technology is here. We only need to put it together and to offer this to the customers so they really rely, they really can trust, and they really can start reducing the costs. I'm thinking on the long run to have a real mainframe modernization. Okay, so Relocate, as I mentioned, is the first step. It's optional. Customers can just install the software in their mainframe and start reducing costs. Our proposal is to basically start with the batch transactions, so they can reduce in the operations, in the batch processes that they affect the most the consumption of the MSUs and MLCs. Okay, we're making sure that this is getting the correct functionality, that it has a very high maintainable quality code, that is way cheaper, that is very fast to install. We have various options to install. We even have the support and solutions to help the extraction from the mainframe so we can make the conversion in a secure way. And more important than everything, lower the risk of the process. You know, we've seen that customers, when they start a mainframe transformation or a migration process, the blast radius of the migration starts with maybe just one program and a couple of tables, and then they notice that they're calling other subroutines, which are calling other data, other tables, and blah, blah. So this starts to get bigger and bigger. They ended up, going into big trouble, and they decide not to do anything. We're planning this, and we're allowing the customers to do this in an incremental way. The Relocate can work from just one single program to an entire application. Same thing with Renovate, and this is what I'm going to use to basically do a live transformation before your eyes. Okay, so Renovate is a solution that I'm going to demo for you today. I'm going to explain to you the process. To be honest, we have 60 minutes to do a live transformation. The process takes 1 minute. So all this preamble and after questions and answers is because I want to make sure that you understand that we are automating everything, that we are really taking care about the functional part, not only about the code conversion. Okay. So what is that I'm going to do in the live transformation? Step number one, I'm going to show regular operation. This case is a COBOL program that is running a DB2 report. I'm going to execute that from the mainframe. That is one of the hundreds or thousands of transactions that a customer may be running daily in their operations. I'm just going to show one and show to you how this is running, or it's been running for 40 years maybe, right? Then a new way to work in the world is using the cloud to pretty much reduce the cost as much as possible and have enablement to as much people as possible. So we are already in the Azure Marketplace. From the Azure Marketplace, you can just click buttons and very easily, very simply do a deploy of the CloudFrame Renovate server. I'll show you also how to do that. Then I'm going to use CloudFrame Renovate server to do basically the transformation. Okay, I'm going to input COBOL and I'm going to output Java in a matter of a minute or two. Okay, then, like I mentioned, the important thing is that this code has to be maintainable, has to be ready to run, right? Okay, I'm going to take that same Java, upload that into my development environment, and run that for you so you can see that the results are the exact same from the original report and the report that I just run into my development environment. Okay. That being said, I'm going to go to step number one. going into my mainframe. In my mainframe, I have this application, this demo application. As expected, it's a tough application. It has a lot of things inside. I'm going to just focus in the program that I was describing, which is the program that runs a report. It's called DemoBook. Let me show you a little bit of the logic of this program. It has, as every COBOL program, some divisions: the identification division with the program name, environment division, data division with all the data structures that are inside there, and of course the procedure division, which in this case I'm showing you because it is all self-contained here. This is a program that has the subroutines and all the calls are inside, so you can see that this is when you fetch the cursor. I mean, every transaction is going to be inside. This is a very standard program, not heavy in compute, but important for customers. Most of the customers, they have these kind of processes every time they are finishing their operations at the end of day or things like that. And it's very important for them for these reports to run, in a clean manner. And if you can reduce the cost of executing this outside of the mainframe, you will gain a lot, right? So let me just show you the JCL. Obviously, this COBOL program that I showed to you is being compiled, and that compilation can be executed via a JCL. JCL stands for Job Control Language, which is the one that allows you to submit your processes. And this process, which is the one that I'm showing you, it's a JCL that has just one single step, and that single step is executing the program, DemoBook, which is going to output the file here. Let me just make sure that nothing is there. Let me just clean that for you and save this file. Make sure that it's all cleaned out. Okay, gonna go back to my JCL and I'm gonna submit this JCL. The execution of this process is gonna take a minute or two, or maybe less. You see my return code is 0, so that means that my report execution went okay. I'm gonna go back to my report, gonna edit what's there, clean this a little bit, and you see my report is there back again. It's just going against the DB2 table, extracting the books, titles, and a little bit more information, and it's bringing that here. If I go to the bottom, you see that I have produced 1,693 lines of a report here, okay? With that, I've just done the step number 1, which is running the as usual, the initial state, right? Now, I'm going to explain to you how to use the Azure Marketplace to produce and generate the CloudFrame Renovate server, because this is already public, and with your own credentials, you can go into the Azure Marketplace and you can start an Azure Renovate solution or an Azure batch to Azure solution in CloudFrame. The only thing you need to do is just type CloudFrame, hit enter. You will get these two options. The option on the right is the one that I was telling you about, relocate. This batch to Azure is meant to help customers to reduce costs in their MSU's consumptions, particularly peaks that they have during intense operation days or nights. They usually need to go way over the standard consumption in the mainframe, and that is very expensive according to most of the invoicing methods that IBM utilizes. So if you somehow want to offload those peaks into another platform, this could be the option, right? But that is relocate. What I'm going to show you here is the Renovate solution. Renovate is about to convert and transform the COBOL code into Java, and then that Java can be independently executed. Okay, so I'm going to click here, and you see that it's very easy to define and understand the concepts. What is it you're going to be doing? The plans, you can decide whatever plan you want to use. I'm going to use the trial plan. I'm going to create right now a full deploy. Very simple questions about the environment that you're going to create so you can run the conversions and the transformations there. Okay, This environment is going to be deployed obviously into the Azure platform, and it's going to contain the configurations that you want. You can decide how much power you want to give to your transforming solution from 1 to 10 nodes. You know, it's very simple. This is just giving a name, like I don't know. Let's call this Renovate to Azure resource group. Let's put a number like 8. Okay. If I hit enter here, this is gonna. Oh no, I got to create new. Sorry. Renovate to Azure resource group number 8. I hit OK. Most of the parameters that you have here, they've been predefined for you to reduce the captures that you have to do here. I also need to add an application name, so I'm going to call this application Renovate. Renovate. Okay. Then as simple as that, I can manage other settings, but I'm just going to make it simple. I'm just going to keep it simple. So I can just review, and then I need to agree, obviously, to the terms. This is running an internal validation about the names and everything. So I just need to agree to the terms here. And with that, I'm able to create my my environment. So immediately this submits a deployment process. The deployment process is going to run a lot of validations. There's a lot of sequencing that you have to follow here because we're putting together a complex platform. The platform is basically standing up an AKS environment, which is going to run on top of that, a high availability environment that will allow us to run basically the CloudFrame server, which is what you have before your eyes right now. So to be honest, I went ahead before because this process of the deployment takes about 40 minutes. I don't want to consume that much time here. So in the interest of time, I went ahead and I basically generated one server the same way that you saw it, but ahead of time. Okay. Now this is a CloudFrame server that will allow you to make the conversion. The transformation is going to be done here. So let me just go back to the diagram. So I show you how to deploy. It's very simple, the deploy of a CloudFrame Renovate server, okay? According to the option that I decide there is the number of lines of code that I will be able to convert, okay? In my environment, I have enough to run the test for you right now, okay? Now, third step I'm gonna do is I'm gonna really do the transformation. I'm gonna upload COBOL and I'm gonna download Java. Okay, this is where the magic happens. So one thing I love to do about my in this kind of demos is to show that this is really happening. Okay, so I am here using FileZilla to extract information from my mainframe, and I'm in the same location, CloudFrame demo listings, which is the listing, the group of listings, and the demo book listing is here. I'm gonna drag and drop this demo book into my environment, my local environment, okay? Let me bring it here. Okay, it's been brought to my downloads. So let me open my downloads, and you see here that there's right now 12:21 against my clock here at the bottom, 12:21. I just brought my compiler listing to my local environment. I'm just going to make sure that it's identified as listing. Let me open it for you. And you'll see that in between the lines of the migration, sorry, of the compilation, it's actually the code that I showed to you, right? So you see these are this is the logic that I showed to you before in the mainframe. So, but this is of course the compiler listing. It has much more information because the mainframe requires that. One of the important things is make sure that the compilation went okay. That means having a return code of 0 or 4. This is a valid compiler listing, so I can take from my downloads this compiler listing and put this into my CloudFrame server and start the transformation. So what I need to do is just to go to my programs. Well, maybe a little important to mention, there are some parameters that I can use for my migration. Parameters like, for example, I can allow the COBOL lines of code optionally or not. I can allow the usage of annotations, and I'll explain that when we get the code, because this is so powerful for the data strategy. It is very important for the users. They're very happy when they get to see that. I can generate for readability or for performance. There are some parameters that I pre-configured here, so I can just go to programs and upload my compiler listing. So my listing is going to be local in my downloads. I just double click my listing, and this starts the process of the conversion. Now, what is it happening here? Like I said, we're using modern technology. So we're doing a parsing on the entire compiler listing, making sure that it's a valid compiler listing, making sure that we read the parameters to understand how this is going to work. Because according to the compilation parameters, some of the variables and values, they will work differently. And we are preparing this to work that exact way. Now then we're going instruction by instruction. So each statement is reviewed, is understood, and is compared to the pre-existing patterns that we have. And then we're doing an assignment of those Java signatures to each one of the COBOL statements. This process is powerful because it will allow you also to see how that link was done, how everything was converted, and basically how you are ready to generate those Java classes. Java classes are going to be separated in a very clear way to do the separation. We actually have documented the project structure that we generate in our knowledge center, and we're telling you very clearly for each of the divisions that we have, how we convert everything, and then even screenshots telling you, oh, this is coming from here, the identification division, those have the name, and that name is, well, then the data division, those have these type of data structures. This is a variable, very important to mention, and you will see that the maintainability relies also on the fact that we are converting everything to Java objects. So the statements, they're decomposed and they're managed as Java objects. We are not taking one statement and wrapping up that as a function, and then nobody can maintain that and nobody can change that. Okay, this is very clearly stated on this document. So let me go back to my transformation. My transformation is done right now. If I go to operational, you'll see that there's a log. 1224 just finished about a minute ago, but I was speaking, sorry. And I launched transformation up here at 1223, 24. So I asked for the transformation of the demo book program. It went and started the parsing process, creating some Java classes for constants, for SQL calls. Everything is being transformed in about a minute and 20 seconds. And my demo book transformation will succeed. Okay. Once that is done, let me go back to my diagram. I've just did the transformation of uploading COBOL and downloading Java. I have a Java Spring Boot project ready to download. Okay, now let me do that for you right now. Go to my programs, list my programs. There's a new key on the block, which is my demo book. I just fetch that to a local copy, and then I can download my Java code. This Java code is going to be downloaded into my local environment, into my downloads, okay? What is happening right now is that it's building all these classes and generating the structure of a Spring Boot project that then is going to be deployed as Maven. You saw that I had the option to choose for Maven or Gradle, which are maybe the most standard Spring Boot deployments in the market. I opted for Spring Boot Maven, and this is what I'm going to get here. As the transformation is done and the project is integrated, I can just click on my downloads button, and I can go and show you that just right now, I downloaded this zip file, 1227. This zip file already has the structure that I need as a Maven project. And what I'm going to do is this same guy, extract the content into my IDE. And why I'm going to do that? Because this is my fourth step. And if you give me a second, I'll explain that. Okay, let me paste this guy and extract. So while the extraction happens, let me go back to my diagram again. And so what I'm doing is starting the step number 4, which is I'm going to run this project that I just created in a Spring Boot as a Spring Boot project into my IDE. So I need an IDE, which is this guy. Okay. As I already extracted all in my local directory, I can import an existing Maven project, which I'm going to browse. Is this demo book, which is just being created right now, 12/27, as you can see there. And I'm going to select the folder. And this is building the project and identifying the project. What I need to do, since I used annotations, there's it's a very strong functionality in Java that requires basically to do a Maven install, because this one generates dynamically some Java classes. So those errors that you see, they'll be there until after I finish my my building. So once the building is done, those errors are going to go away. And I already explained a little bit about the structure of the code. Maintainability, it's something that we really focus on. It's something that we are making sure that this code is very easy to understand. So while this happens, let me go and explain a little bit about, the maintainability. In the process section, we have the demobook.java. Build was success, so my classes are already, everything is ready to just run. So one important thing that you can see here is that the lines of COBOL code, they are embedded in between the lines of Java code. So for each line of statement in COBOL, there's a Java signature that is running the similar instruction accordingly. And then this is the main logic. This is the main part of the code. Then the subroutines are going to be there as well. And so you can see that this is readable Java. This is maintainable. One of the things that we do is, let me show you the annotations. So for example, we manage the DTOs, which is a standard Spring Boot way to manage data, right? We all know that. So for example, there's a data structure that is called header. Okay, header here is identified and managed as a DTO. Okay, but the DTO, where is this coming from? Well, it's coming from an annotation that we call data. And what we did to get that data is we converted the copybook or whatever was describing that data structure, we converted that into XSD files. So this specific DTO will have a correspondent data annotation, and that data annotation is going to be here. And it's going to be a description of the header in this case. So this is very powerful because you can start making the decoupling of your data structures by changing these XML files. And this is very easy to maintain. The Java developers, they don't need to know what is a copybook. They don't need to know what is an 88 or a filler or a redefine. They don't need to know that because this is being already all converted. Okay, and then what I need to do if I want to change this is change the structure. Maybe this is going to be a table in a SQL server. Just use that structure of the SQL server and change my annotation to my own customized annotation that is going to go against my new SQL data structure. So that's one of the powerful things. Another one is, the business logic is being already separated. That is very powerful for customers to maybe start improving that logic and make it, more powerful. And like I said, it's very easy to maintain. You don't need to know COBOL. Okay. Let me just also very important thing. It's we are separating things like configuration parameters outside of the project. So migrations and staging, the projects are ready according to the standards and best practices in Spring Boot, we're doing this application properties managed separately. Another important, well, let me just, before I go there, let me just make this guy run. What I'm going to do is going to delete these properties, and I'm going to copy, another set of properties that I have here, because I want to establish a connection back into my mainframe and things like that. So this will allow me to generate the report locally. One of the things that you can control here is what format you want to use for your inputs and outputs. I can use, CP1047, or I can use UTF-8 to generate my outputs, my inputs and outputs. Let me just save this and execute it. Execution is also nice, because if I open this class, you will see that we're allowing the customers to decide what is the way they want to use to execute. So you saw that at the beginning, I run my COBOL program using a JCL. That is an option that we're providing. We can also run this as a REST invocation, and I can also run this here from my console, which is what I'm going to do right now to make it simple. So I can run as Java application. This is going to basically open a Hikari connection to the DB2. It's going to run the reading, and it's going to write all the outputs into a file. This is being completed, okay? And if I go and refresh my project, you will see that at the bottom, there's going to be a new file that is just being created right now. So refresh, the repo file is being created. If I open that file, you'll see that this is the exact same report that I generated at the beginning for you, with 1,693 lines of report. If I go to the bottom, 1,693 lines of report. So this is to demonstrate the functional equivalency and how powerful this is. Now, one very important thing here to mention is we are auto-generating the code. So in order to auto-generate the code, there's a lot of things in the market that they can help you to do that, and Spring Boot is particularly strong on that. And typically, you use templates to auto-generate the code. We are providing the customer the templates. So for Java, experienced Java developers, they can go into the templates and they can modify whatever they want. So we provide the code, of course, but we also provide the templates. And since this is a Spring Boot, there's also the option to modify the code on top of that. So there's three ways. First one is you can go and override the code directly. So let's say you can go to demo book here and change the logic, whatever you want to do. Option number two is go and modify the templates. And option number three, it's on top of everything that is being built, you can add pipelines. And particularly Azure, Microsoft, they have a very strong solution to add pipelines to the code. So those are the alternatives, and that's basically the way we generate, and you can eventually modify the maintainable Java code that we generated. Okay. David, I'm going to stop here, see if there's any questions. I have, some FAQs here, but
George, we do have a couple of questions. Some of them are related back to the existing COBOL program that we transformed. The first question was, does that particular COBOL program call any subroutines, or is it self-contained?
In this case, no, because honestly, I'm making a simple demo, but yes, that is possible. And if that is the case, the project that you saw as a Spring Boot will contain those subroutines here as well, okay? Because we are generating something that is going to be completely independent from the mainframe. So you have to select and bring the COBOL listings, not only for the main program, but also for the other subroutines that you want to convert. And they will be linked together in just one single Spring Boot project.
Okay. There was a question around the versions of COBOL that are supported by the CloudFrame transformation process.
That's a great question. We transform every COBOL version, IBM COBOL version, anyone, okay? Because again, we're using intelligence here, and the intelligence will allow you to understand the very old COBOL, the very new COBOL. It doesn't really matter what version, okay? Now let me go back. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I have one final question. that was in the queue, and I encourage anyone else to add them, add your questions if you have one. But this is lengthy, so I'm going to read it, and then you can respond back to it. It says, if there are common copybooks in working storage procedure division, i.e. date conversions, error handling, etc., are those created as separate Java classes, libraries, each program by program, or are they migrated, or is there a way to flag them as existing or established so that these common artifacts are reusable components? So I guess what that is asking, is whether we've got some intelligence in the transformation process.
That's correct. So that's a great question, because that seems to me like the people were paying attention. So I love that kind of questions. And I think I show it, well, I know I show it the data structures here. For example, some of these are coming from copybooks. Some of these are coming from SQL structures and things like that. So like I mentioned, this is being converted into XML files. And so these can be very easily decoupled from the project, from this specific project. So we can convert the DTOs into a separate class. We can actually get them off of the main project and have them reusable whenever it's needed. Now, that reusability is very powerful, yes, and the annotations, they will help also to make that being easier to separate from the main project. So the answer is yes, we can, and yes, we've done that. Okay.
Okay. We have a couple other questions that have come in. One is around languages that we would support, assembler or Rex.
Oh, that's a great point. Right now, we're focusing on COBOL. Assembler, eventually, we may need help from the customer to come to creative solutions in how we can work together to convert eventually that assembler to COBOL and from COBOL to Java. But yes, that's the product is growing, and right now, as I mentioned, COBOL is the focus.
Okay. Here's a little bit more complex question. Can you handle more complex COBOL mechanisms such as shared memory APIs, pointer arithmetic, etc.?
Can you repeat the last part? Share what?
Complex COBOL mechanisms such as shared memory APIs, pointer arithmetic, etc.
Oh, yes, we can. You know, about the shared memory, obviously that doesn't work the same way in Renovate because you are not using the mainframe memory anymore. But in Relocate, we do have mechanisms to share the memory and keep on memory continuously accessed information. So what you can do when you transform the code is you can use whatever caching mechanism you want to use, and then caching the information can be, controlled very easily with APIs. So that's a thing that we can do, that we've done with other customers in the mainframe using Relocate, reusing memory spaces, yes. And outside of the mainframe, we also have done that, but using obviously Java techniques. Mm-hmm. Now, about the data computes and all that, we've tested every type of compute with several customers that we have in production. Customers that they run financial transactions like, buy and sell stocks, like billing systems, like, clearing systems, every type of complex computes, we've done it already. And we can test anything with the customers to make sure that we can convert properly.
Right. So there was a reference there to products, and I just want to make sure that we distinguish between those two. We have two main product focuses. One is a COBOL cross-compile, which is meant to have, there you go. That takes the COBOL and then you can move it to any JVM, therefore reducing the MIPS and trying to curve or reduce that curve of MIPS usage. And the other one is the transformation process that you just saw, which is concentrating on maintainable Java being generated from the COBOL. So those are two distinctions that George mentioned in the answer. I'd encourage you, if you do have questions, go ahead and pop them in, and we'll try to get them answered before we get off of the webinar. We do have a couple more minutes.
And David, I have purposely put this, these are very frequent questions that I receive on the market. Can you transform, and you saw the question, transform the entire application or just parts. I explained that we can transform an entire application. We can also convert JCLs. So in the case of JCLs, we produce the Spring Batch projects that they even have the handler class, the step handler class. And the step handler is going to behave exact the same way as in the mainframe. You're running a JCL with several steps, and each step is going to give you a return code. You'll see that exact same behavior in our projects, because like I said, and again, we're worried about the functionality. We're not worried about giving you Java that you may gonna have to work with, okay?
Mm-hmm.
About the deployment, this is a Spring Boot standard. It can be deployed anywhere. You can make it a executable Java and deploy it in a cloud, deploy it in a hybrid environment, deploy it on-prem, anywhere you go. This is a standard Java, runs with a 1.8 and up. Any Java can basically run. And then the question about how ugly or is that a COBOL that you're producing really gives me the chills, because it makes me understand that this market is very incredulous already, because there's no solutions like this in the market. And I think that about the data, I explained already that the solution is ready to help the customers with whatever data strategy they have, so they can decouple the way they're going to access via independent means that is going to give them the capacity to migrate the data at the speed they want. You saw on my example that I'm accessing the mainframe back. I'm going against my old DB2, right? Well, you can keep it like that for as long as you want, and then you can offload your DB2 into any other LUW or whatever, and then change the access to that new database, and good to go. Same thing you can do with other types of information stored as BSOM files, QSOMs, flat files, GDGs, anything. We work with that with other customers. We're ready to help them, to help the customers with that. So,
George, we have a couple other questions I'd like to post to you.
sure,
One is a question in general about performance. How hard is it to get the Java programs to match the performance of COBOL running on a mainframe? So I know
that is a great question, and a terrible myth, David. Terrible myth, because customers, they're afraid that, oh no, my mainframe is very powerful. I'm never going to get that power outside of the mainframe. Yes, you will. And Java is a low-code controllable language. So you can go to deep level and improve performance in many ways. But I'll tell you this, just last week, out of the box, converted COBOL-to-Java in a huge end-of-month transactions for a big customer. In volume tests, we beat the mainframe 35% less time without changing anything in the code, just out of the box.
Great.
Obviously, there's other scenarios, but it's a very workable. It's very easy. You have the control in your Java. You can do whatever.
Okay. Have a question about accessing IMS data sets on the mainframe as well as DB2.
Okay, it's not done yet. We can access DB2 and all the other types of data sources that I mentioned. IMS is not there yet. Probably will be on the roadmap in the near future.
And support of common IBM utilities such as IBGener, sort.
Oh, great question. Great question. Yes. So as I mentioned, we also convert JCLs. And in order to convert the JCLs, we need to make sure that they're going to run the most common or even some not so common utilities. So sort is fully converted with all the sort conditions, and the IBM sort and other sorts like the sync sort, IBGener, IBCAMS, all of the standard utilities, we convert that to make sure that the user experience of the operator running a JCL is going to be the exact same.
Great. All right, we're going to do one last question, and then we'll wrap things up. The question is, do the COBOL compile listings get saved so that it's clear that the version of the program was transformed in the case where the program changes? Have you made, and someone is questioning whether or not the CloudFrame process needs to be rerun to generate a new version of the Java version. And before you answer, I'm going to interject something here. So this is a question really about keeping the two environments in sync. You're in a hybrid environment. You may have something on the mainframe. You may have something in your target environment running in Java. We call this continuous modernization. Last week, we were at the Open Mainframe Summit, and Venkat, our CEO, presented on this very topic of continuous modernization and using an automated platform like CloudFrame to keep the two environments in sync and to revalidate that the results are the same. And so that's a very good question. George, I don't know whether you have something to add there, but it's something that we're seeing more and more customers request, because we know that transformation projects are not done in a 45-minute session. They take oftentimes months and seasons and tax seasons, all those types of things to come through in order to get them done. So we understand that business requirements change, and we are working on that continuous modernization platform, and we'll probably have a webinar on that here in a couple of months as we start to roll that out. But George, you can add to that if you have anything.
I think you said it very well. Next time you'll do the demo as well, David.
I don't know.
No, great explanation. Yeah, great explanation. And we know that it's key to have that coordination in between environments. So there's many ways and options and solutions to automate the process of keeping your COBOL listings updated. There's actually already GitHub running in the mainframe, and other solutions that they're also going there. But yes, you can control and automate the way you manage your versioning in both sides.
Okay. I'm going to go back on my word here. We're going to have one more question because it came in as anonymous. And so if you have asked a question and I did not get a chance to answer it here, I'll follow up with you directly and we'll get that answered. So I have your names in the question list. And so I'll make sure I get back to you on that. But this is anonymous. And so I won't have the chance to go back directly to you. So I'm going to read the question, George, and we'll answer this and then we'll wrap things up. This goes to the maintainability of the code. A single JCL with sort utility will hardly take 10 to 15 lines in the mainframe. I assume that's the source code to perform that sort function. But in Java, it transforms to 100 or 1,000 lines. Can you comment on that? I think that's the code bloat situation that we get into, where we've got an enormous amount of code that is the result of the transformation of COBOL. So maybe you can talk to that, George, about the maintainability piece.
No, that's a great point. So yes, but in the mainframe will be the same. If you see a sort being called inside of a JCL, that sort is calling a program. That program is going to be expanded and it's going to generate hundreds of lines of code as well that you cannot see because it's been already, pre-compiled and everything. But in the end, that expansion of that JCL is going to happen somewhere, right? So the mainframe is going to have to handle and manage all those hundreds or thousands of lines of code. We do the exact same. So in the project that we generate, you will see just one class that is the call to the, first you will see just one step that is going to be the call to the sort. Then if you expand that and go deeper in the code, you will see the expansion of that sort, and then you will see even the code. The sorting itself is proprietary code that is part of the way we manage this, but eventually this is expanding everything as well. Now, it is very important to mention, yes, efficiency is key, and that's why the sort, and in particular, it's an utility that we've been working a lot to improve the performance to as much as possible. Not only reducing the number of lines of code, that can be done with very simple techniques. It's not only that, also make it efficient, okay? Because this is a new machine, this is a new set of instructions. We need to utilize that set of instructions the best possible way for the machine to process the best possible way, right? So there's intelligence, like I mentioned here. We are not just converting code just because we want to charge the customers and keep them as customers forever. We transform your code. If you want to keep transforming because that is your strategy, then you can use that methodology. If you want to transform just once, you're good to go. You don't have to pay us anymore because you just pay for the transformation.
Excellent. All right. Well, thanks everyone for attending today. I want to wrap things up. Take care, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. Thanks, George. That was a wonderful walkthrough of how we transform COBOL to Java.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.